Well, hello. I'm Don Lubach, an associate ombuds with UC Santa Barbara. And with me is the director, the ombuds for UC Santa Barbara, Caroline Adams. Good afternoon, Caroline.
Good afternoon, Don.
Say we had quite a lunch hour. It was like our 8th live at lunch offering to the community. And I think we're going to be doing these way after the pandemic. People seem to really like to gather and talk about important topics. The topic today was supervision. And I don't know about you, but I love seeing the faces there, particularly new supervisors or people we've known to have worked in different offices who suddenly find themselves in a new place on campus coming out of coming back. So it was good energy. And I really liked what you had to share. So in this shortened version, tell us how it was for you and what are the kinds of topics that you covered?
Sure, Don. So we call this supervision. And, I really want to stress that we want to move beyond just being a supervisor. In other words, someone who's looking over the shoulder of someone watching them and making sure they do what they're supposed to, and really move into the realm of being a leader of a team. And I think that is just so important right now as we are facing what we keep hearing about, the great resignation, people who are reluctant to come back to the office, either because they're afraid for COVID or they just are happier working from home. We have new staff who need to be onboarded and engaged. People are burnt out. There's perceptions of unfairness. Some people get to work from home. Some people get to work in the office. So either way, there's some unhappiness going through that. And also we're coming to the workplace and it's a really different place than we left. Who would have thought that even just shaking hands is something that we don't do anymore? And we can hardly recognize our coworkers, some of them with the masks on. We're moving into new spaces with new things, hybrid meetings, and we feel like we've been working on Zoom for quite a long time, but there's more to learn, and then moving into the hybrid world is also completely different.
There was some good side conversations, Caroline, about dress at work, and I've been hearing the buzz around campus. And in case people are wondering, you might not want to wear your bathing suit to UCSB as you have been able to get away with before. So people are actually changing the way that they are presenting themselves as well. So fascinating. It's an interesting time, isn't it?
It is a fascinating time. And, I think there's some benefits to that. We've seen some people loosening their ties that maybe were excessive.
Right.
But we have to strike that balance too, where people recognize that they're in a workplace.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah. So, thinking about the team, it occurred to me that even the letters of the team refer to a couple of concepts that I think are really important as we move forward. And I was sort of struck with the idea of a recipe for a team, and the fact that it takes years to build a team. You have your mission, you have maybe a place that you go, maybe not, all the different players that create the team, and then all the external factors. We've certainly seen what external factors can do to a team in these last 18 months with COVID, but all those other ripples and how they can impact your team from outside. So it's something that, I think supervisors really need to be paying attention to the individuals and how they relate to each other. And particularly, one element that comes up a lot is trust. I think trust is really the foundation of a team. Now, trust can mean a lot of different things. Do you have trust with people that you have daily conversations with? Are you able to be open with them? Is there psychological safety there that people feel like they can talk about issues, bring them forward? This is Brene Brown talking about what she sees as trust, everything from can you trust people to do what they say they were going to do? Can you trust people not to share information that you deem private? Can you trust them to have good judgment? All of these things are different ways that we talk about trust, but it can mean so many different things. And
I just had mentioned that I really liked how you had people look at that list and then sit for a minute and kind of gauge their thoughts about trust in their unit. And we also invited people to, especially newer managers, to sort of shake the Etch-a-Sketch post-pandemic to say, hey, everyone, we had trust issues here, and I'm aware of them, and I want to really look at that as a manager. And so there's this wonderful moment we have here to kind of re-enter the workplace and face some of these things head on. I thought that was really interesting, and folks had a lot of energy around that as well. Oh, and also you mentioned that our office is available for people who want to, we have some trust instruments, right? That are an instrument that if a manager listening to this wants the Ombuds team to come in and help the group kind of gauge where trust is, that's a service that we offer. Okay, sorry, I'm taking up some of your time.
No,
it's important to give that context there.
Thanks for adding that in. Yeah. And I also wanted to share that there is a lot of research out there that says that you should spend just as much time building the relationships among your team as you do on task, that it should be a 50-50 ratio. And I think the way that we are so busy, we've been very busy, and now a lot of you out there have you're low on team members, you've got vacancies, you've got unexpected work that needs to get done, and a lot of us have really been task focused. And I think it's time that we need to really put the time into having some more unstructured time, and researchers found that just we're able to build trust by having time where people can talk about things that aren't work related. And so I think understanding that this is an investment in your team, and while it might take away some time from the workday, that in the end, it's going to prove to be more productive in the long run, because you'll have more retention of people, and they're going to be more productive if they're more happy and engaged.
Right. I'm just imagining those very task-oriented leaders out there, and we see you, we know you're there, we appreciate you, but they are just cringing at this list right now, saying, really? First of all, I don't have a team to build trust with, or my team is diminished, and I just want to get stuff done. But boy, it's the science backs this, doesn't it? Oh, and somebody asked us for a link. You made a reference to this research, so we have to make sure to get that to the person who private messaged me about that.
We'll definitely make this deck available, and I'll include citations in that when we get it out there. And I also want to highlight too that if this isn't what you're really interested in, it's okay to invite other people on your team to kind of take on the leadership role in terms of the team.
Yeah.
If you're going to want to do a team retreat, you don't have to be the one that organizes it. You can delegate that. Of course, you need to be involved, but people are going to be more engaged if they have a little bit more skin in the game and their ideas are coming forward. And sometimes your ideas of what you think are fun, your team isn't going to think are fun. So it's also a good idea to get their take on how they want to manage that. Do they want unstructured time? Do they want to go for coffee, or do they want something that's more specific, and a game or something of that sort?
Right. Oh, and just have to make a gender-based comment, since we're both involved in some of the gender work happening on campus. If you're a leader and you hand off some of this fun stuff, the relationship stuff, be mindful about gender when you hand that off. There's a particular gender that tends to always be chosen for this emotional stuff, and that needs to be disrupted, I think. Is that too directive from an ombuds to say? I just want people to be thinking about that as we get better.
Good point, Don. And then moving also into things that that some leaders find icky, emotions. Unfortunately, like it or not, they are one of the ingredients that is coming into your team. Everyone's got them. They might be real, or they might be based on misperceptions, but people will see them as just as important as facts. And people are coming to the workplace with coming from very different places. A lot of people, as we learned in one of our recent trainings, a lot of people are feeling both anxious and excited at the same time. But we're seeing everything across the spectrum, from being overjoyed that people can come back on campus, especially some of our students, to people who are really angry and feel like they shouldn't have to be forced to leave the safety of their home if they think campus is not safe, or some of the comforts at home. And of course, there's grief, and we need to understand that some people have lost people close to them because of this. Some people have had, they might be experiencing long-term symptoms. They might want to share that, or they might not. But just knowing that we've lost something in this process, and regardless of how people feel, just showing that you listen, and that you have some empathy, that you care, that the university cares, is going to go a long way to having people feel engaged.
And for goodness sake, if you're a lucky person who skated through this unusual time, I feel like I'm in that category. There's just a bunch of factors made it relatively unterrible for me. It's important to know that this was the biggest thing for people sitting a couple of rows down from you and so forth. So being mindful of that, that we all experience this differently. Important.
Now, hopefully, we will also, all those of us coming back to the office, benefit from what psychologists know, which is that being together can be something that gives us resilience, and lowers our anxiety levels. So hopefully in the long run, this will be a good thing.
Yes.
So moving on to the A in team, agility and agreements. So what is it that I mean by that? What I'm talking about is this tension that exists between, on the one hand, this idea of being flexible, being adaptable, as an organization, being innovative. Now, we've all had to move and change quickly. What's that word I hate that was overused? The
Pivot.
Pivot. Pivot. But at the same time, we need to recognize that people suffer when there's not some kind of stability or predictability about the work, and about who's going to be on the next team call. Are people going to be there? Are they going to last? What are we going to do? What's our mission? So as a supervisor, I think just kind of recognizing where you are on this spectrum and where your team members are. Are they feeling really excited and interested in doing something totally new? Or are they feeling like the ground's been moved under them and they don't know what they're supposed to be doing? I mean, we hear this often, people saying, wow, I have a new supervisor, or my supervisor's gone, or my teammate's gone, and I don't even really know what I'm supposed to be doing anymore. Also fatigue. We've heard a lot about change fatigue. So, kind of thinking about there's pros and cons to both sides of this equation.
Can I just say, I hope this is the slide that somebody was messaging me about for the reference, because I'll be able to say, this is Caroline. I love that. And I hadn't thought of those two concepts and thinking about the tension. It reminds me a little bit of the Myers-Briggs judging versus perceiving scale, in that judging would be more people who live by rules and agreements, and perceiving folks are the ones who just love to flank left and right and just take life as it comes along. But Jill, this is so interesting to think about. And we did throw people out into groups again, and boy, they were reluctant to come back when we, because talking about this and where they are on this and the kinds of strategies for helping people to cope with this tension, making something good from this tension is really what we're aiming for. That's right.
And I think it's great that supervisors are being flexible with their staff about when they work from home, when they come into the office. At the same time, it can be difficult for team members if they need to work with other people, they need to collaborate with them. So kind of understanding that flexibility for one can cause instability for another.
Right.
So just some things to think about, giving people choice, rather than having a one size fits all for everybody. Again, researchers have found just having the choice of working from home or not makes a huge difference in employee satisfaction. Making sure you communicate. You can't over communicate. And thinking about kind of establishing what are your new norms going to be, so that you can establish flexibility, but that there is a norm, there is a system for how that's implemented, so that people see that there is some predictability at their workplace. So why are you all here? Why are we here? Yeah, okay, you want to get a paycheck, but what is it that really engages people? Why is it that we want to come to work at UCSB? Why is it that people come up to me in the community all the time and say, wow, you work at the university? Oh, I've always wanted to work at the university. For a lot of people, it's that they love helping students. For some people, it's they just love the other people who work at the university, and they feel like they're around like-minded people. Maybe you work on the campus and you work in the buildings and you're making the buildings better for the environment, supporting the arts, keeping students healthy at student health, or maybe you're a researcher working on tomorrow's cure for tomorrow's pandemic. Whatever it is, thinking about how do we sort of justify why we do this work. And I think a lot of that has been lost as people have been home in their silos, head down, maybe again, more sort of task oriented. They're not as attuned about the reason that they're doing the work they are, or what's going on around them. What's the bigger picture? So helping people understand what they're doing, why they're doing it. And even getting a little bit more buy-in from folks, giving them more responsibility so that they feel like they're more a part of things. Of course, giving kudos, having everyone share their values. Again, this is something that the Ombuds office can do. We can get together with your group and have you all sort of discuss what are your norms and values, what are your needs, what are your strengths, and just having everyone share those can really help you understand what your team culture is. And it may be that it's time to co-create a new culture. That culture is gone. It left with certain people or a certain space. And kind of getting back to your point, Dawn, how do we reinvent ourselves? How do we reinvent our teams? And also create belonging, make people realize that they do belong with you. So that kind of wraps it up. And as Dawn had mentioned, we had some reflection questions as we went through. These will be in our deck. I welcome you all to take some minutes after this and go through these questions on your own. Yeah. And I want to thank Dawn for inviting me to do a recap.
Woo, Zoom. It's funny. We're both here today. So Caroline is just 2 offices over. When we come out to get our coffees, we put our masks on. But this is such an interesting. It's so neat to be back here where it all happens. And the other thing we talked with the group about the use of our office, and I always like to remind people, you don't have to call our office as the desperate last thing when you're in a jam. We would love to have conversations like I'm seeing on my screen right now with you, reflect with you about your work team, your work situation. Think about how your office culture, these are all conversations you can have confidentially with the team here at the Ombuds office. And I'm really happy with your leadership and management, Caroline. So thank you for walking the talk. And by the way, can I have tomorrow off? No, I'm just kidding. So great spending time with you. And our telephone number, maybe I can put it on the screen, but it's area code 805-893-3285.
And I do want to also remind people that all these things that we're saying you should do or you could do with your group, exactly, we are happy to be the facilitators in these discussions so that you can be a team member and not have to be responsible for keeping the discussion going. And you can get your kind of meaning into all this as well, into these discussions.
Good point. It's almost impossible to run a meeting and dive into the meeting at the same time. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Okay, I guess we better stop. Thank you. Take care.